We wrap up a huge weekend of wrestling with the women in the spotlight. I'm Tom Campbell from Cultaholic Wrestling, taking you through what happened at WWE Evolution 2025. Stephanie McMahon, the creator of women's wrestling, joined Joe Tessitore at the stage as the special guest host of the entire show. Michael Cole, Wade Barrett calling the action, starting with Becky Lynch defending her women's Intercontinental title against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Bayley sucker punched Lyra to get the match started so she could focus on Becky Lynch, but Lyra would get back into it, taking the horsewomen down with a springboard. Lyra attempted a baseball slide onto Becky and Bayley outside the ring, but they caught her and dumped her onto the announce table. Advantage swings to Becky from here, who countered Lyra's tornado DDT by pushing her into the steel steps and hitting a Beck-sploder into the barricade on Bayley. Becky put the boots to Bayley back in the ring. Just as Bayley was fighting back, Lyra returned to the action with Bird Lady flying out of the nest with a crossbody off the top. Lyra dropped Becky with a fisherwoman's buster into a pin, which was broken up by a Bayley diving elbow. Bayley here took the lead, putting Lyra into the Tree of Woe and sunset flip power bombing Becky into her for another close fall. Becky got back into it with a superplex, and Becky and Bayley jockeyed for the disarmer or the rose plant, and in doing so, they did not see Lyra coming off the top with a signature diving leg drop. All three from here hit their big finishes. Lynch lands the manhandle slam, but the cover's broken by Bayley, who drops Becky with the Bayley to belly, only for Lyra to stop the 3 count, and Lyra hits the Nightwing, only for Bayley to break the cover. The end comes when Bayley, after trying all match to nail it, finally hits the rose plant on Lyra Valkyria, but Becky Lynch backslides Bayley and steals the 3. The man is still the man, leaving with the Women's Intercontinental Championship. The NXT Women's Championship is on the line next, with Jacy Jayne flanked by Fatal Influence facing Jordynne Grace. During the Countdown show, Grace asked Blake Monroe if she'd be in her corner to counter Fatal Influence, which Blake very kindly agreed to. Blake Monroe is a brilliant friend. Jordynne starts hot with a German suplex and a dive outside the ring, but Jacy got back into it by guillotining Grace on the ropes and kicking her so hard on the apron it looked like she hurt her foot in the process. Fatal Influence shenanigans behind the referee's back keeps Jacy Jayne in charge, but a spine buster gives Jordynne Grace an opening. Grace gets a near fall off a package sit-out powerbomb, but Jacy avoids a Vader bomb and a Juggernaut driver to land a draping neck breaker to regain the champ's advantage. Back and forth pinning combos lead to Grace landing a very impressive high-angle fisherwoman suplex, but it only gets 2. Grace on the top rope gives space for Jacy Jayne to land a Hurricane Rana, quickly peppered by a rolling knee, but the challenger kicks out. Fatal Influence attempts to give the women's title to Jacy Jayne, but Blake Monroe is there on 2 occasions to stop it going down, taking claim of the NXT title belt to stop further silliness. Jacy then whips Jordynne Grace into the ropes, where Blake Monroe clatters Grace with the women's title, leading to Jacy Jayne dropping Grace with a punch and getting the 3. Blake Monroe steps into the ring and hands the NXT title to Jacy Jayne before taking her leave, with Jordynne Grace seething at ringside. Blake Monroe is a terrible friend. Next up, the women's tag team titles are on the line. The champions, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day, take on the Kabuki Warriors, the Down Under and Cowabunga Connection, Sol Ruca and Zaria, and the Can They Coexist sisters, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Hot exchange between Kairi Sane and Roxanne Perez to start, with Perez absorbing some Kabuki Warriors tandem offense. Rodriguez muscles in and cracks the Kabukis before Bliss, with a huge ovation, tags herself in and goes to town on Perez. However, she is mauled by Zaria when she tags herself into the match. Ruca and Bliss have an athletic exchange until Raquel Rodriguez once again re-enters the match. Alexa Bliss weathers a Judgment Day storm and tags Charlotte Flair, who cross-bodies her way into the contest, single-handedly chopping the bejesus out of the JD. She gets a near fall on Perez from a spear, but Raquel Rodriguez once again there to make the save, booting pushing Flair to stop a figure 8 attempt on her tag partner. In comes Asuka, who clears the playing field, and the Kabukis put a combo beating on Zaria until the big Aussie monster double suplexes them both, and Soul snatches Charlotte Flair that catches the crowd and the commentators off guard. It's all going well for Zaria and Soul until it doesn't. We see Zaria and Soul attempting a double team on Alexa Bliss, but Charlotte Flair saves Bliss at the last minute from a spear from Zaria, which ends up being a spear eaten whole by Soul Ruca. The JDs shift into high gear from here, Perez cracking Flair with the pop rocks, and Raquel powerbombing Bliss out of the ring onto the Kabuki Warriors before dropping Soul Ruca with the Tehana Bomb for the 3, concluding a fierce 4-team free-for-all and retaining the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. With that, it's Tiffy time to rock and roll. Trish Stratus challenges Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. It starts with a stalemate after grapples and attempted finishes, but once Tiffany slaps Trish in the face, it really kicks off. Stratton attempts a suplex on the apron, but Stratus turns the tide with a stratosphere off the apron to the floor. Near falls for Trish from a spine buster and a tornado DDT, but after a chop exchange, Stratton gets an opening with a springboard corner attack. She even pulls out Roderick Strong's end of heartache. I see ya. This leads to a swanton for a near fall, and just as she goes up again for presumably the prettiest moonsault ever, she gets a second dose of the stratosphere, followed by a chick kick from Trish for a 2. Tiffany's prettiest moonsault ever is hit, but countered by the knees of Trish Stratus. Stratus follows up with a Stratusfaction, which does not guarantee the 3 on this occasion. Trish goes for a moonsault. Tiffy counters with knees of her own, and finally lands the PME to get the 1, 2, 3. Tiffany Stratton is still the WWE Women's Champion, leaving Trish Stratus alone in the ring to get a standing ovation and a thank you Trish chant. It really felt like the last time we would see Trish Stratus wrestle, but we all know that wrestling retirements don't really exist, do they? Right, someone give Tom Brell a call because it's no holds barred. Jade Cargill versus Naomi with Bianca Belair as guest referee. Match starts on the ramp with Cargill wiping out a charging Naomi, but Naomi slows Jade down by driving her into the steel steps. Cargill avoids a kendo stick shot, suplexes Naomi on the floor, and sets up a table for future carnage. Naomi eats a spear outside the ring, but will take control with a kendo stick before dropping Jade headfirst onto a chair in the ring. Naomi's attempt to choke Cargill with a steel chain backfires when Cargill overpowers her and uses it as a knuckle duster instead. Jade then steals a WWE camera, driving it into Naomi's guts, following that up with a bin over Naomi's head and a boot to what was probably the general vicinity of her face. Cargill even tries to drop a toolbox onto Naomi outside the ring. Thankfully, Naomi avoids that one and takes control with a shotgun dropkick to Cargill that destroys a monitor at the base of those shiny new announce tables. Sparks fly and everything. Wade is worried that somebody might get electrocuted. Naomi then tries to remove Cargill's eyeball with the leg from an upturned table. She follows this up by pushing her off the apron with a steel chair, sending Jade crashing through Chekhov's table, the one she set up earlier. Back in the ring, an X Factor onto a steel chair doesn't quite get the 3 count, so Cargill manages to come back, stopping Naomi's attempt at top rope plunder and lands a Jaded off the top rope through a table and gets the 3 and the win. Bianca Belair stoically raises her friend's arm for the win. We haven't talked about Bianca Belair's role during this match in this recap because, quite frankly, she didn't do anything. Belair played the whole thing right down the middle, showing no favoritism throughout, which keeps this whole story ticking on, I think. The Women's Battle Royal is up next, featuring Nikki Bella, Chelsea Green and the Secret Hervis, Natalya, Maxine Dupree, Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Lola Vice, Zelina Vega, Kalani Jordan, Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame from The Culling, B-Fab, Mishin, Ivy Nile, Candice LeRae, Nia Jax, Stephanie Vaquer, and Julia. Jax immediately on it, throwing out both members of the culling and Kalani Jordynne, but Jordynne lands on the culling and the announce table, so her feet don't touch the floor, so she handstands her way back into the match. Julia then chucks Ivy Nile out while she's locked in Vaquer's tarantula. It leads to a showdown between Julia and Vaquer in the middle of the ring until Nikki Bella gets involved. Bella nearly ends up getting the devil's kiss, but Chelsea Green stops it, much to the sheer dislike of the fans in attendance. After successfully landing the worm at the encouragement of her fellow Dungeon Doll Maxine Dupree, Natalya is eliminated by Jada Parker. Maxine battles Jada for Natalia's honor, but she ends up on the apron and gets chucked out by Candice LeRae, who is eliminated moments later by Kalani Jordynne. Parker gets chucked out by B-Fab and Michin following a stereo long back attack. And Candice gets revenge on Kalani Jordynne by pulling her off the apron and eliminating her. Zelina Vega and Julia have a really heated exchange on the apron that sees the Women's US Champ driven into the ring post and eliminated by Vega. The Secret Service are back on shift. They chuck out Michin and save Chelsea Green from elimination. Lash legend muscles Vega out with a military press. Nikki Bella eliminates Alba Fire. Lola Vice comes to Nikki's aid and they do the Bella dance together. A lovely moment destroyed by Piper Niven, who then sends Lola and B-Fab out of this match as well. However, Piper comes unstuck when Vaquer and Bella get her out of the match. Stephanie gives the devil's kiss to Chelsea Green, which leads to Nikki Bella throwing Chelsea out, and it leaves us with the final four of Bella, Vaquer, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax. Lash gets the big kill, booting Nikki Bella out of the match, and she lifts Nia Jax up and drops her onto the apron. Lash Legend and Stephanie Vaquer together send Nia Jax out of the ring, giving us our final two, which leads to a back and forth in the closing moments. A springboard by Stephanie is caught by Lash, who goes for a powerbomb out of the ring, but Vaquer turns it into, quite magnificently, a devil's kiss on the ring apron. Legend, well and truly kissed, just drops to the outside, and Stephanie Vaquer is declared the winner. Post-match, the Mega Stephanies collide as Stephanie Vaquer is interviewed in Spanish by the inventor of women's wrestling, Stephanie McMahon. Vaquer ends in English, thanking McMahon and every woman who came before her and paved the way for tonight, promising that we will remember her name forever. Stephanie Vaquer will now challenge for the Women's Championship at Clash in Paris. So who will Stephanie Vaquer meet in Paris? We're about to find out in our main event. Women's World Champion Io Sky defending against Rhea Ripley. Some solid techers to get us underway, both playing mind games as we get started. They agree they respect each other and decide to fight. We see a high-octane exchange with Sky getting a dive outside the ring, countered with a forearm by Rhea Bloody Ripley. Sky blocks an electric chair drop, lands an Asai moonsault to follow that up, comes up with a victory roll out of the corner, back in the ring for a 2 count, and keeps the pressure on with a 619 driver on the apron. Rhea Ripley slows her down with a knee to the face before throwing her off the apron onto the announce table. Ripley has the power game, throwing Sky into the barricade and the steel steps before working over Sky's midsection with a leg scissors and a kneeling abdominal stretch. We see an exchange of strikes that sees Sky keep up the pressure with a German suplex and a missile drop kick. The bullet train attack pulls into the station, but the end of the match is delayed as it only gets a 2. Io counters an avalanche German suplex by a revengeful Ripley and lands a series of Shote uppercuts and a poison rana for a near fall. Io once more looks for the over the moonsault, but Ripley pushes her down and busts out a brutal razor's edge, followed by a sit-out powerbomb, but Sky gets the shoulder up at 2. Frustrated, Mammy Cool hooks in the riptide, but Io locks in a rear naked choke. Ripley counters it by driving her into the corner, a perfect position for Ripley to take her up top. Sky manages to counter a superplex and then goes for a springboard dropkick, but referee Jessica Carr ends up taking the full force of it. Sod's law. Rhea hits the riptide and there is no ref to count. Ripley is furious. She drops Io Sky with another razor's edge and sends her into the crowd where the fight continues. An aggressive Rhea Ripley beats the piss out of Sky before going for a powerbomb off a stack of production cases. Sky manages to kick her opponent away before climbing to the very top of the production case mountain and land a breathtaking crossbody all the way to the floor. The fight continues around the venue and into the crowd. Sky stomping Rhea's chest on the steps. She lands a sunset flip powerbomb onto Ripley on the outside and hits the over-the-moonsault just in time for the official to wake up. However, it only yields a 2 count. Once more, Sky goes for over-the-moonsault, but Ripley rolls onto the apron for safety. Sky drags Ripley to her feet, but it backfires as Ripley bangs Sky's head off the turnbuckle. Looks as if Sky is going to be the recipient of an avalanche riptide, but Io turns it into a Spanish fly that leaves both women down. Just then, Naomi's music hits, and Miss Money in the Bank charges to the ring with a referee and the briefcase. Still hurting and banged up from the no-holds-barred match, Naomi cashes in her contract. She clatters Io Sky with the briefcase. She drives Rhea Ripley into the turnbuckle post and hits a springboard moonsault onto Io Sky for the 1, 2, 3. Just like that, the game has changed. Naomi ends the night as WWE Women's World Champion. The show ends with Naomi standing tall in the entranceway. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky looking devastated. Fireworks going off as we crown a new Women's World Champion. And that was WWE Evolution 2025. As always, let us know what you thought in the comments below. I've been Tom Campbell from Cultaholic Wrestling. Stay safe and love you. Bye.